Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'd like to talk about Clear Linux, from the Clear Linux project. This was a request that was originally made by Trent Plushie. Trent, thanks for the request, and this looks like a really interesting project. I think you had requested this one time before, and I missed it, so I apologize for that, but I did catch it this time, so here we are. And by the way, I love that name, Trent Plushie. I saw your channel there and I see you got lots of plushies. That's really cool. You know, I even have a couple, one of my favorites is a monkey, and he's always kind of, hey, what? Hey, monkey. Hey, monkey's here right now.
Yeah, I'm the brains of the outfit. Jack's just a front man.
Yeah, don't you have some monkey bars to play on or something?
Monkey bars? Oh yeah, I was just at the monkey bars.
You were?
They were having 2-for-1 specials on lattes.
No, I was talking about the other kind of monkey bars.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't swing that way. I'm straight.
What? Okay, well, hey, thanks for coming out. I think you've just had a little too much caffeine there. So anyway, the Clear Linux project. Let's check it out. So Clear Linux OS is an open source rolling release Linux distro optimized for performance and security from the cloud to the edge, designed for customization and manageability. Wow. So that sounds kind of cool. I've been just kind of looking over this site here. You know, one thing about Clear Linux, I think is really kind of geared more towards the IT guys. I can see here that, they have different releases here, and it kind of reminds me a little bit like Fedora's Silverblue, where Silverblue has kind of their different layers separated. Silverblue kind of calls their OS like the immutable OS. And the Clear Linux project actually is based on Intel's open source project. And so this is really, I think, an Intel funded OS, and this is an OS that's built from the ground up. So it's not based on any other kind of OS. It's not based on Ubuntu or Fedora or Arch. It's their own Linux. It's just built from scratch. So that makes it really kind of interesting to me too. So why was I kind of alluding that this is kind of geared towards IT guys? Well, in the About page here, it has a lot of details, but it doesn't mean that if you're not an IT guy, you can't use it or even enjoy it. I think even a regular person could, but there's things that you got to know and understand, and once you understand those little caveats, it might be something that you might really like. And if you're an IT guy, it's something that you can deploy in an organization, and your end users could get lots of benefit out of it. Security is a big thing with this. So here we have a little chart here, and they were kind of doing a comparison between traditional OSs and the Clear Linux OS. And so on the traditional, you can see typically you have your user data in OS and your config files all kind of running together. So there's no real separation of the layers. Whereas Clear Linux separates your user data and the operating system and your configuration files and keeps them all separate, which makes things a lot neater and nicer. So again, it's kind of like Silverblue, but it also kind of reminds me of the MVC model in software, where you have your data and your visuals and your components all kind of separated in that kind of logic. And so yeah, it kind of reminds me of that too, in a way. Loosely. And also Clear Linux does automatic updates in the background. And again, since this is their own OS and it's not based on anything, they also have a different type of packaging system, which based on something they call swupd. I just call it swupd. And then they also have this mixer tool. So you can actually create your own distributions and deploy them in an organization or wherever. And you can even create updates using this mixer tool. So that's something really powerful. Yes, this looks like a really interesting thing. I'm just going to go ahead and download it real quick and we'll take a closer look at it. So I'm going to hit download, I'm going to load it in a VM and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are, we're in our VM. I got it all downloaded and I am now booting and it went directly to our main screen. There was no kind of menu at the beginning or anything like that. That's pretty interesting. And so here we are, we're at the Gnome desktop here. So that's interesting. And I can see here on the activities that we have our Clear Linux installer and it appears to be in 3.38 here. So that's kind of interesting too. I'm kind of curious to see whether the GNOME updates to 40 or if it stays at 3.38. But given that the documentation says that this has automatic updating features in the background, I'm assuming it's probably going to automatically update. Let's see if there's a Neo fetch on here and kind of get a idea of what's here. So yeah, here we have our Clear Linux OS, and currently it's at the 5.10 kernel, which I think is also going to update after install. It's also showing that we are running GNOME 3.38.4, so yeah, I'm thinking that might update. Real interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at the installer here, and then we'll see what Clear Linux is all about. Or at least get a rough idea. So I'm going to hit this installer and let's see what kind of installer it's got. I'm assuming it's probably their own installer too, and it's a nice looking installer, very polished. Of course, with a big organization like Intel behind it, it's got to be, you know, well financed, I guess, right? So here it's detecting my language automatically in American English, which is good. And I see a couple other choices, Espanol and Chinese, so which is Zhonghua if you're Chinese. And yeah, Zhongguan. I think I'll choose that. No, I'm kidding. Don't want to scare you. I will stay with English. So now we got our time zone, which is automatically detected at UTC. I think I'm just going to switch that to the local time zone. So I would be in America, and let's go with New York. That would be probably the closest. Cool. And then our keyboard is US, that's good. Let's select installation media. So let's see how complicated this is going to be. And looks pretty straightforward. We have safe installation and destructive. So safe is apparently where you can install alongside something existing, like maybe a Windows install or whatever. Encryption options if you want to enable it, and then advanced if you want to use a partitioning tool and kind of set it up your own way. Definitely would recommend that for more advanced people. So we're going to go with the destructive because I like demolition. Besides that, we're on a VM, so I'm not going to hurt anything. So very good. And rescan media if you need to rescan your drives. Maybe you stuck a new drive in. So okay, we did that, and apparently that's all we got to do. It's going to take care of the rest. Very easy peasy. So now let's go ahead and add a user. And I think I'll just kind of go with my usual toadwick. And then our login would be the same. And I believe this all has to be lowercase. And then we'll just make up a password here. Let's see. It's got to be 8 characters long. Well, that's mildly irritating, but not a big deal. Okay, and we'll leave this user as an administrator. So I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm. So our users are taken care of, and now we have telemetry. Let's see what that's about. So this is to allow Clear Linux OS to collect anonymized system data and usage statistics for continuous improvement. These reports only relate to the operating system details. No personally identifiable information is collected. And then see this link for more info. Intel's privacy policy can be found at this spot, intel.com/privacy. Okay, well, I think I'm good with that. I mean, I'm not that paranoid. And if it helps the project, why not? I'm sure it's not going to burn much, if any, bandwidth. So I'll just hit yes there. And then let's go with install. Oh, wait a minute. Before we go to install, there's another tab up here, advanced options. Let's see what's in there. Oh, this is kind of cool. So we can select additional bundles. By the way, they refer to their packages as bundles. So bundles, in other OSs, you have a package manager and you have packages. And here they use bundles, which is very similar to packages, but in the future in Clear OS, you'll see things referred to as bundles. And if you were going to install something through the console, like using swupd, it would be a bundle add command rather than what you're probably used to. So let's start with that. Let's collect additional bundles. Wow, this is kind of cool. Common set of pre-built R libraries. So if you're into R programming, that's probably cool. Basic containers, cool. Dev utilities, C++ to assist. I'm just going to check that just for fun. And requires a networking connection. Proceed with a network test. Yes. And it should detect a network, I would assume. There we go. Cool. So given that it's asking for a network connection, it's probably going to be downloading these libraries and apps as we install. So yeah, nice. GIMP. Let's put GIMP in there. And Java. Yeah, that's always good to have, in my opinion. Machine learning basic. Wow. So something for building machine learning applications. Yeah, let's, for the heck of it. Run any Clear Linux dev process. Don't really know what that is, but let's click it. Then we Perl basic language programs, Python basic 3. I think those are a good idea anyway to have on here. Captures most console workflows. Yeah, okay. Run a cloud orchestration server. Probably beyond what we need to do here. Applications for the desktop. Yeah, let's stick in there. Can never have too many apps. Some people would debate that point. And editors, that kind of looks like Emacs there. So let's turn that on. Go basic if you want to build and run Go language programs. Nice. That's cool they have these options. LibreOffice. Stick it in there. Basic network utilities and settings. I think that's wise. Package utilities for creating, building, and managing packages. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick that in there because the way it installs packages on Clear Linux OS is Flatpak based. The swupd allows you to install items that may not be available on Flathub. And maybe these package utilities kind of help enhance that experience. So we'll find out. Then we got our Pigeon messaging client. That's cool. Basic sysadmin utilities. I think that's probably smart to have on there. And then basic user dev packages. I'm going to go with that too. I think that might be a good call. Okay. So I guess I could have just checked everything, really. R extras, yeah, the R libraries, I don't know. Maybe that's something worth having too. So we got our additional bundles here. Now let's give it a host name. So if we had this on the network, this is something we could identify our computer with a friendly name so it's recognizable. I'll just call it Toadwix PC. And we'll confirm that. And then let's configure our kernel here. So by default, it's going to use the latest kernel. And so I kind of like being cutting edge, depending on your situation, if you have older hardware, or maybe you have some software you want to be running that you need that stability or whatever. You have problems with a newer kernel, then the LTS would probably be a better choice. But I'm going to stay with the native. And now let's check out our software updater. Let's see what that's about. Specify a different installation source, an swupd URL other than the default. I think we can just kind of keep the mirror blank. I think that'll let you go default. And then allow over insecure connections. Yeah, probably not a big deal, but for security, we'll just leave it unchecked. So I think, yeah, just kind of leaving this the way it is fine. I like auto updates in this case, so let's do that. Now, to enable this post, here's the command here, the swupd auto update, and then _enable. If you want to disable auto updates, you can do the same thing in reverse. Just change enable to disable, and that'll disable your auto updates. And then we already tested our network settings, as denoted by the checkbox there when we were doing the bundles. So let's go to install. Okay, now it's letting us know that it's going to overwrite our partition, and that's all good. And it created a boot partition here, it looks like. So yeah, that's all fine. And a swap file in the var folder. Very good. So let's hit confirm. And so now I'm going to go ahead and let this install. And this theoretically probably shouldn't take too long. And then I'll be right back.
Hello. Why, it's finally finished. Oh, it's been forever. I was just a young buck when this started, and now look at me.
Yeah, that's right. It took 3 hours for this thing to install. Wow. I thought it would never end. But it finally installed. Yeah, that was probably the longest install I ever sat through. Holy cow. I guess if I could go back in time, I would not go into those advanced options there in the installer, and I probably would not have selected all those different items. Now, it could have been a fluke. Maybe my internet connection was screwed up today for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and restart, and hopefully it installed successfully. I'll be right back. Okay, and now I'm rebooting here, and as you can see, there's no menu screen again at the reboot. So, yeah, that's the way it's designed. It just comes right here to my login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. Looks like the install was successful anyway. So let me just get logged in here. And now we're at our desktop. So here we have our Gnome desktop. And first of all, I'm going to just go ahead and change my display settings, get it at 1920 by 1080. And so I'm just going to jump up here and switch this out. All right. Yeah. And now I'll just jump out of here. And there we go. That's a lot better. And so now we have this nice Gnome desktop with all this wasted space because they don't let you use it. But, you know, if you're a Gnome fan, you gotta accept that. But anyways, so let's take a look here. And we still have our 3.38, which I half expected, but since this is supposed to be auto-updating, checks for updates all the time when you boot in the background. So I'm assuming right now that it might be auto-updating in the background. So in a little bit, I think I'll restart the computer again and see if we end up at GNOME 40. And if we do, then cool. And if not, probably also cool. I don't know. So let me open up a terminal real quick. And so let's see if HTOP is on here, just by chance. It is. Wow, cool. Okay. So it looks like we're using about 1.5 gigs at the outset here on memory. So, seems a little high, but that might just be because the auto updater is running in the background. So we'll want to consider that. So we'll just jump back out of here, and then we'll just go up here. One thing about GNOME, if you want to get to the menu, if you use your mouse, you always got to go through 2 steps, which to me it never made much sense. You got to go up here, activities, and then click to get your menu. Shah. But you know, I think there is a keyboard stroke, if I remember right. I think it's super. If you hit it twice, let me try that. Or maybe it's once. Yeah, okay. I guess it's just super will get you to here anyway. So you're still kind of going through 2 steps. And I thought there was like some shortcut you could get directly to your menu, but I guess not. That was Super M, that didn't work. Control M, Alt M. Yeah, I'm not a big GNOME guy, but I guess, at least not that I know of, I don't really know any way to get directly to your menu. It seems like there's always 2 steps you gotta go. Activities, and then click. Of course, if we were allowed to put our icons on the desktop, that would be kind of nice, like all the other OSs in the world. God, even my iPhone is covered with icons. Jeez, you know. Okay, enough of my rant. Let's explore. This is about Clear Linux, not GNOME. So, let's see what else we got here. Let's jump into terminal real quick again. And I gotta run that HTOP real quick. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of leave that running a little bit here. I gotta kind of monitor this usage here and see if that changes, which might indicate the update completes. And then I'm going to open another terminal, like a new window. And then, while that's open, I'm going to jump back in here again. I'm going to open up our Software Center, and let's check out our Software Center. Okay, let's go shopping. Cool. So as you can see, it's getting Flatpak metadata from Flathub. So that means that this is tied in with Flathub, which is kind of what I was expecting. Fedora Silverblue is kind of like this. It installs apps from Flathub. That way it kind of keeps everything containerized, which is great for security. And also you don't have to write to your system files into the actual OS layer, which is nice too. In fact, in Silverblue they have a separate, it's in the VAR folder, the var folder, and they put the system files in there. There's like a var/usr, something like that. I don't remember really, but I think they do something similar here too. They have folders that are writable inside probably the var directory or the USR user directory, and I don't remember where, but I think like USR/defaults, they put some config files in there too, like your fstab stuff and so forth. So yes, very nice. And so if we went in here and we wanted to install something, like we already have Firefox, I think, but let's say I wanted to install that, just come up here, like hit our search and type in Firefox, and it'll give us a result here for Firefox from the Flathub. So that's cool. And yeah, Firefox is here. So it looks like it's already installed. So we're good there. So let's say we wanted to install something that's not available on Flathub. I really can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like, I don't know, how about the Qt Basic framework? Yeah, I'm kind of not seeing that. Okay, so let's say, you know, you can't really find that in Flathub, not surprisingly. So let me just open up my terminal here. If we want to install that, this is how you can get around it and install applications from outside of Flathub. Actually, I guess they would be like the Clear Linux repositories, I suppose. So this is what you would do. First of all, we could do a search. So we would use sudo swupd search and then Qt Basic and see if there's if that exists. And then it'll go out and look for the bundle, and there it is. So it does exist. We got Qt Basic there. Nice. So that means that it's there, and actually it's installed. So cool. But if it wasn't installed and we wanted to install it, it even tells you how the command to use to install it. We would simply type this in, your swupd bundle-add space Qt Basic. And of course you'd want to have that sudo. And then it even has some, looks like some alternate suggestions that you could add in there too. Like, would you like fries with that? So very cool, yeah. So bundle add is what you use for in place of install. If you're familiar with Arch and you use sudo pacman install blah blah blah, or Fedora sudo dnf install blah blah blah. Yeah, very easy to use, and I really like the search feature too. I think that's really nice. So when you're looking for things, you can find it, and if it doesn't exist, you know, like obviously Qt Basic did, but if something else didn't exist, like my YouTube username, Toadwick, then of course it's going to say search failed. No reasonable results found. I guess they're saying I'm unreasonable. Yes. Okay. So anyway, yeah, let's see what installed here, because we did choose a lot of stuff. So here we have our accessories. And if we jump in here, there's a weather app. That's the Gnome weather app, I guess. Character map, nice. Software token, something. Yeah, I don't know what that was, but not something complete, I guess. So it looks like there's 3 pages here. So let me drag it over to the next page. Here we got a password manager. That's nice. To-do maker. GBIM, wow. A lot of people would like that, I suppose. Our HP device management, very cool. Extensions, so we got our extension utility. And then archive manager, screenshot tool, and calculator. Nice. And then our standard stuff here, decomp editor, document scanner. And then we got something for education, LibreOffice Math, and GNU Octave. Cool. All right. And then fish. Oh, didn't expect that. Nice. I really like the fish shell here, so that's really great. Nice. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't realize we were going to have fish. Most impressive. Have to do my 2 steps again to get back in the menu. GIMP. Very good. Our UI scan utility. HTOP, which I'm impressed that was installed by default. Internet settings here, so we got Wireshark, nice. And our Firefox and Geary, cool. All right. And there's our Office apps. We got our full LibreOffice fresh install there. Photo viewer. And under programming, let's see, we got a Spider. Nice. Joe's own editor. Good job, Joe. Emacs. Yes. And then our Python something. Let's click that. Oh, it's an idle shell. Okay. Yeah. I guess the name should have been a clue. Idle. All right. And then there's our settings. Sound and video. Anything new in there? Okay, yeah, that's kind of the standard stuff that came with it. Then we got our system monitor, which is pretty nice in Gnome. Yeah, all right. And then I'll just kind of take my 2 steps back into the menu. And we have our utilities finally, which again, I think these are probably pretty standard here, except for the advanced networking. I remember selecting that. And the disk usage analyzer, that's a pretty cool utility, I think. Here it kind of gives us a breakdown, and if you click on it, you get this really cool chart that comes up here, if I remember right. We'll know in roughly 6 to 8 weeks. And here's our types of charts too that it's going to show after it's done scanning. It takes a little bit because there's a lot of stuff on the drive, even though it's a fresh install. So it's actually scanning the whole drive and working out how the drive's being utilized. That's why here in the beginning it's kind of taking its time. But from here forward, it wouldn't really take that long to scan it. So here's kind of a breakdown of the way our drive is used. So this is really a nice layout, and I've always liked this utility. And so our USR directory has like the most, this is all the red here, corresponds to that. And then it even breaks it down further into how much is being used where. So yeah, this is a really nice breakdown, especially if you find yourself kind of short on drive space and you don't really understand why, because you're like looking through your files and I don't have that much on, what's hogging all my room? This is a great way to kind of figure out what's going on. So yeah, and then you can change your chart style here by clicking this guy here. But I've always been kind of a fan of the ring style here for the hard drive, so very nice. Cool. And then jumping back in, 2 clicks. Not that I'm holding a grudge or anything, but 2 clicks. So yes, and then we got our advanced networking, which we set up, selected for install during our install. So yeah, very nice. We got our network connections and wired and all that. I believe Wi-Fi would be in there too if I was on hardware, but I'm in a VM right now, so yeah, there we are. So I think that kind of covers all the software here. Cool. And then if we jump into our settings, let's take a look. It looks like we got all our standard Gnome settings here. So we got wired for network, and we got our Bluetooth, which is not relevant in a VM, this VM anyway, at least. And then we got our background. And so yeah, a lot of nice looking backgrounds here. So Clear Linux has some nice looking defaults here. And getting instant reaction like you do with, close that, like you do with XFCE. I've always liked the DEs that kind of give you an instant change. Not that hitting the apply button is all that strenuous, but you know, it just kind of adds this level of coolness. And so now we can look at our big giant empty desktop that doesn't contain anything, not even shortcuts. So it's all pretty, but at least it's not cluttered, right? Yeah, I'm glad they made that decision for me. Not that I'm bitter or anything. I just got to keep jabbing the Gnome people for that. But they're devs, you know, not the devs. They work hard and, you know, they don't have to do what they do. They volunteer their time. But, you know, the people on the top, I feel like I can jab them a little more. But really, it's not something, I guess, that would stop me from using Gnome. I think, you know, Gnome has a lot of cool things. I think if they would just, got rid of the annoying part about having to do 2 clicks just to get to the menu, that would probably be a big help. I could have sworn there was like some kind of shortcut though. I'll have to look into that, research it a little bit. But I thought there was like a keyboard shortcut that would get you directly to the menu. And if there is, I guess I'll find out someday. One way we can find out is to click on the keyboard shortcuts and just see if something's mentioned in here. So let's just kind of go in here and type in menu. Open the application menu. Super F10. Activate the window menu. Alt space. Okay, so I guess it wouldn't be menu. Let's just kind of, I'm just going to look real quick just down through here. See if I see anything real fast. So here's launchers, home folder, blah, 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 email client, settings, navigation. Screenshot, sound and media. There are a lot of shortcuts though, aren't there? Wow. Okay, maybe under system. Okay, let's try Super A. Woohoo, there it is. Okay, we cracked the secret. Yeah, Super A, that's what it is. Okay, so that's good to know. All right, we got that worked out. Mystery solved. So if you want instant access to the main menu, it would be the super key and the letter A. Super A will get you there instantly. Nice. I could have sworn there was a shortcut. It just seemed like a long time ago when I used Gnome that there was some shortcut. And so that's what it is, Super A. All right. You Gnome guys, you were probably like chomping at the bit to get out there and write a comment. So great. All right. So Super A. So yeah, Gnome just stepped back up a little bit in the coolness factor for me. So I'm glad to see that. And all these other settings look pretty standard, or application settings. These are all kind of Gnome things that you can see on pretty much any distro. Here we have some privacy, any Gnome, I mean. Bearing, sound, power, displays. That's our display settings where we changed our rate before. Mouse and touchpad. Removable media, so you can go in here and kind of, you know, set that up if you need to. Then here's our user settings, so if you want to give yourself an avatar, you can just jump in here and do something. Kind of like the putty tap. And I guess you got to unlock it first. Here we go. And default applications. Here they can easily be changed if you wanted to change your default browser or editor, etc. And let's go to about. Here we have our Gnome stats here, our display name and how much memory, processor, graphics, which I'm using VirtIO right now in KVM. So in case you were wondering, typically VirtIO, sometimes I use it with OpenGL and 3D acceleration. Sometimes I use it with just 3D acceleration. Depends on the desktop. Sometimes I need all three, like if I'm running Cinnamon. I think I had to use all three in Deepin as well. But typically you can get away with either just VirtIO or VirtIO with 3D acceleration. And then the display would be VirtIO, whereas QXL I think is the default, which is not always optimal. A lot of times QXL just gives you bad results, especially if you're running KDE in a virtual environment. So anyways, Yes, and it's showing our version at 3.38. So let's go ahead and restart this real quick, and let's see if it, check our updates. Yeah, so it's saying software is up to date. So I'm assuming that it went ahead and updated in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and do a restart, and then we'll find out if this went to Gnome 340. Okay, I'm back in my login prompt there, and there's my changed face. So yeah, it looks just like me. Profile. I'll go ahead and get logged in here. Okay, I'm back in, and let's click on activities. And it's still there. Wow, I'm kind of surprised. I was pretty sure that would have updated. I was really sure that was going to update. That's kind of strange. In fact, I think I'm going to restart again because I'm not really convinced that it didn't update. Let me just power this off real quick. Back in my login terminal. And there we are. Check it out. So now we're at Gnome 40. Nice. Okay, so there you go. So now we got our menu down here and our big wasted desktop here with nothing on it. And so cool. That's awesome. Glad to see that that updated. And there's our main menu and our desktops up here. So very good. That is a lot better. Back in the programming here. Yeah, GTK demo. I didn't notice that in the icon browser the first time I was in here earlier. And widget factory? I wonder if these just kind of came in. Maybe they were kind of updating as we were going along there. That's pretty cool. I mean, I suppose I could have missed it, but yeah, I was pretty sure they weren't there before. Nice, but that's good to know that we got those little extras in there. And there's fish. Very cool to have fish there. Let's open this guy up and do a neo fetch. Nice, looking good. Okay, now it's showing our latest kernel here, 5.12.3. So yes, very good. I'd say that's up to date. There's our Gnome 40. So yeah, we did update. In fact, I don't know if the proper thing to do was to shut down, or maybe I was just too impatient before, but it did update, and it seems anyway that shutting down is what helped, possibly. So that's good. All right. One thing also I want to mention with Clear Linux is that Clear Linux, like I was saying earlier, is based on its own, it was built from the ground up. So that means it's not based on Ubuntu or any other spin out there. It is its own a Linux distro. Therefore, when it comes to packaging, like the swupd, other distros you might be familiar with, you know, like package files or RPM files, DEB, like if you're in a Debian-based system. And so those are all different packages, and you might be wondering, well, okay, is Clear Linux using one of those type systems? And the answer is actually no. Now, they are using the RPM framework itself, so it's kind of got the RPM format in it. However, they don't actually use RPM files. So if you were going to download an RPM file and try to run it, it's not likely going to run it. So they have their own packaging format. And so, yeah, that's kind of the story on that. The other thing you want to be prepared for, if this is something you wanted to use as your desktop, is codecs. It doesn't come with like your FFmpeg codecs and other things that you would normally use for viewing certain media files. So that's something you'd want to keep in mind. If you wanted to get those on here, you'd probably, again, want to be technically inclined and know how to try to get those in there manually. Now with that said, I'm kind of curious if it has any kind of codec files. I'm going to launch YouTube real quick through Mozilla and just see if it can play play the files within Firefox. At least that would tell us that there's some codecs out there that work. So, yeah. Let's try something. Pick up. Yeah, looks fine. It doesn't look like right off the hand here that it would be a problem. Yeah, so there's no FFmpeg, and I don't think you can install it through SW either, but let's just try it. So we'll do an FWUPD search. FFmpeg. Okay, so it looks like you can actually maybe, let's see, we got KDE Frameworks Dev. Yeah, so I don't see a direct hit there. I don't know why we got KDE Frameworks 5 Dev as a search result for FFmpeg. Unless that's like embedded in the dev framework there. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of that, actually. It could just be a false hit, false positive, or, you know, maybe you somehow get the FFmpeg codecs by default if you install the KDE Frameworks 5. One of you geniuses out there might know that. Okay. So anyways, as far as I know, though, I wouldn't assume that FFmpeg is easily installable on here. And if anybody knows that not to be a fact, feel free to chime in the comments and let me know. So yeah, so that's another good thing to know about it. The feel on this, you know, and I'm only going by intuition, not science, but this feels super stable, and it's obviously a very polished distro. Got a lot of money behind it. You got Intel there, so, you know, I'm sure we got some of the best working on this stuff. And I like this modified Gnome software app here where it's just set up for Flathub. That's kind of cool. And very nice looking too. Here we have our calendar and our clock in the center as tradition would dictate for Gnome. Now that we're in Gnome 40, I want to make sure that I can still do my Super A. And I can, so very nice. Yes, really nice to know Super A. And so yeah, I mean, if you think there's a keyboard shortcut to get somewhere, just like the scenario we had, always try to remember that in the control panel, we do have this keyboard shortcut option here, which I just lost. They put it down here. Okay, so it's just been moved. Good to know. So keyboard shortcuts is under keyboard and then customize shortcuts. So let's click that, and then looks like we got our categories all itemized here in a list now instead of the way it was before. So that's a change as well. And I think I found that. Let's go to system. To me, that seems like the other logical place. There it is, show up all applications. So it's under systems in your keyboard shortcuts where your Super A is. So if you want to change that for whatever reason, you can simply jump in here and then just type in your shortcut and then it'll change. So yes. And I just hit escape there before. That's how I got out of there when I didn't do it. So yes, system seems to be the place. Keyboard shortcut, system, nice. And then show all applications. Okay, excellent. So there we have it. I think we covered all the big stuff here. And I would say if you're a user that doesn't have to do things too funky and you're not real technically inclined, you can still use this operating system and do just wonderful with it. If you're somebody that has to install a lot of things and you're not technically inclined and you need certain codecs, you might run into some issues and it could become a learning experience where you might have to get on there and Google. But one thing I've noticed is that Clear Linux has a lot of information out there. So if you want to learn how to do something or get some kind of driver going, you'll probably get a hit for it in Google. If you just type in your question and then put Clear Linux at the end of your query, you'll get all kinds of hits. So I don't think that it's real hard to get a lot of community support out there if you have some kind of issue going on. And I don't really foresee that you would have a lot of issues, depending on your situation, of course. But I think for most people, it would probably be really straightforward. So in my opinion, even though this is really geared towards IT people, this is kind of the audience that it was geared for. However, I think if you are somewhat non-technical and maybe you installed this for somebody like your grandma and she was using it to, just do her everyday things on it and maybe use Excel or Writer, that would just be just fine. And with that automatic updates in the background, you don't have to worry about updates because it just kind of does it in the background and keeps it up to date. And by the way, Clear Linux is a rolling distro. That means it's going to always be up to date, and it stays up to date in the background. So you don't have to worry about any red flower up in the corner of your taskbar reminding you, you got to update. It'll just kind of take care of it for you. And it's very in the background. You don't even know the updates are running. Like when we updated to 40 here, there was no indication that it was updating in the background to 40, but it did. And it works the same way with security updates and everything else. Really cool. I like that. That's a nice feature. It's something that makes me feel like that I can always be up to date, but I don't feel like I had to update it. So it's kind of like a done-for-you service. It's like having the guy down the street show up every day, every week, and mow your lawn. He just shows up regardless and doesn't charge anything. And every week you go out and, my lawn's been mowed. That's nice. And so this is kind of what it feels like with the auto updates in the background. I really like that. I guess that's something I could really get used to. It kind of spoils you. And I also don't really mind that much that it's a GNOME environment either. I guess the more distros I've been reviewing that have the GNOME desktop on it, the more I've been kind of warming back up towards it. And then of course today when I was going to refresh my memory on that shortcut for the instant access to the terminal, to the menu, that was like kind of reminding me that, there are a lot of cool things about GNOME that I forgot about. And so, there's still little things like right now we got our software and it's showing up here, but I don't see my terminal up there. And so if I didn't know that was hiding behind there, I might be like, where's my terminal? And I'd have to go and do this and then go up here. Or if this guy's minimized, now they're both gone and it's like, what do I have open? And then, you gotta kind of go activities and look, or use the shortcut key, which I think is Alt space, maybe Alt tab, and you can use your switcher here. And so that's kind of a way around it. But wouldn't it be nice if it was just sitting up here? And yes, you could use GNOME tweaks and like install, I think it's called window something, where you can put it in the bar, but I think you have to add another bar first, top bar. I don't remember, but there's an extension where you can put a bar here at the bottom and you can add in the window manager, and then they all show up down here in the bottom. But then again, you're getting into extensions again, which tend to break when GNOME updates. So you got to keep that in mind too. But if you don't mind the little funky things like that, then GNOME is a very stable and can be a pleasant environment to work on. And again, if you need desktop icons, you can use an extension for that, which will work until it breaks. And then you got to live without them until they fix it. So anyways, that's kind of the way it works. Otherwise, click on activities and then you can go in here and there it is. But when you're used to a desktop environment where you just have access to your closed items, like right in your taskbar, and you kind of get spoiled. But otherwise, I would probably just stick with Alt-Tab, and then you can kind of switch between what you want to use. So that's not really a big deal either. So yes, I think I just ran out of stuff to talk about, but you know, I have really positive vibes with this Clear Linux. I think it's really cool, and I think if you like playing around with different distros, then I would definitely give this one a shot and take a look at it and play with it a while, experience it. I think you might be surprised at how nice this is. So with that, I'm definitely going to give this guy a total thumbs up. Yes. So Trent, I also want to thank you for such an excellent suggestion.
Hi, Trent.
What a ham. Anyway, great suggestion, and this was a really fun review to do. So again, Trent, you made my day. This was a great thing. Thanks for turning me on to it. I really wasn't familiar with Clear Linux at all until you had asked about it. So I'm really glad I got into here. And with that, I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And if you didn't like the video and you didn't think it was helpful at all, give me a thumbs up anyway. Be a rebel. And hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.